search of mind.
Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to change the text, the font and the color of any Blender intro template there is, unless it's a very special template and it works differently. But this will work for most templates. Yeah, so let's get into it. The first thing you want to do is go over to your browser and type in Blender into the search bar. You can tell this isn't my first attempt. I've had like 3. It's pretty hard to create. Click on Bandella.org, the website. Click on this, and then you can download it to your operating system. So if you have Windows, you download the Windows one. If you have Mac, you download the Mac one. If you have Linux, you download the Linux one. I actually don't know the difference between these two. No clue. I generally don't know. And if you're a nerd, you can. That's the source code for it. Yeah. Anyways, what you're then gonna want to do is you've downloaded your Blender, and you're gonna want to open up your Blender intro template. So normally you download it and it should be a .zip file. So if I open up the browser, it should be like in a .zip file, which look like this in Linux at least. I don't know how you extract it, but in Linux you just right click on it and then you click extract here, and then a folder should appear with the name of the folder inside. So this is the archive manager. If there are no folders, then it will just be the name of the .zip, but look for that. Then what you're going to want to do is open up Blender, click File, Open, navigate to your Blender intro template where it's saved, double click on it. Now, the way this opens may vary. The view will always be different, so sometimes you may only have this, or you may have this. Sometimes you may be lucky and have this, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the bottom and make sure you're on 3D view, and it should look like this. You're also going to want to have the timeline down here, which lets you scrub through the intro. If you don't have the timeline, then you're going to want to go into the corner and then drag it up. So there's a little cursor should appear like this, and you just drag it up, and then a second view should appear, and you can just change this to the timeline. Oops, just dropped my pencil. I don't know why I had that in my hand. Anyways, you can scrub through it, and then you want to change the text. So it is going to teach you some basic Blender on how to move about. If it's not on the camera view, it should be like this. What you're going to want to do is kind of go view and then camera view. If your angle's really bad, just kind of do it until it's a good angle. Then you're going to right click on one of the text objects and then click tab, or go down here and click edit mode. And then just change it to productions, or whatever your needs will be, whatever your name is, and if there's 2 text layers, if there's 2 texts, then change both of them. If you don't want one of them, just right click on it and then click X and then click that, but as I don't want to delete it, I'm not going to do that. And then I'll change the top one to Bandella. Obviously there's 2 for each because there's 2 colors. Oops. And if it doesn't quite fit, you made a spelling mistake somewhere. And then if you go into rendered viewport shading mode, you'll see that they're both the same. Now, if you change your text and there is like a massive line coming out of one of the text objects, then, well, you have a bad font. And if you want, how to change the font is actually pretty simple. Or your font doesn't load. Like it looks like this, but you just want the different font, like you just want to pick a different font. What you're going to want to do is you just click on this file here and then navigate to a font which you have. They're normally a .ttf, or I don't actually, I'm not really a pro in fonts. I don't know what the font files are, but anyways, just open up the font and then do it for all 4 or 2 text objects depending on what intro template you have. Your mileage may vary, essentially. Then once you've done that, if you like it, you can change it. You can keep it the same. Sometimes your text is too big. Your name is just too long for it to fit in the camera for certain parts. For example, in this part, it's just too big. So what you're gonna want to do is right click on one of them and then hold down Shift and then right click on the other text and then do the same for this one. And then you should have all 4 text objects selected. If you scale it and one still stays the same, then you need to reselect them. If you don't want the scale you just did, then you right click on it, but I'll get into that later. Your view there should be a properties panel here. If that isn't there, just click T, but the properties panel we're looking for is the one where you click N. Now, if this scale thing is green, then this next object, or this next green or yellow, this won't work, because it will then scale back to the original scale, because the template maker kind of messed up, or he didn't make an incorrect intro template, didn't use animation of the empties. That is very confusing, but you know, if it's green, it won't work. Yeah, so what you're going to want to do is click S, and then you want to scale it down until it fits on. And then if you like it, then you left click, and if you don't like it, you right click, and it goes back to its original size. And once it's, now my Blender's lagging because I'm recording. I hate these freezes. Now it's a decent size. You can read it. If your name is really, really, really long, so it's like, I know how to emoji bananas 360 no scope, you're gonna want to shorten it somehow. That was very weird, by the way. You're gonna want to shorten it somehow, because it just may not be readable to that point. Anyways, now your channel's all about red, but the current intro is gold. You don't want it to be gold, or it's yellow, or it's red, or it's green, but you want to change it to red. So there is a pretty simple way of doing this. Now, what you're going to do is select one of the text objects, and in my case, because there's a white text object and a gold text object, if you select it and there's a white, then try and select it again, and then it should be the gold one, or the color which it is currently, and then you just change it to green. So we're going for green, we're not going for red. Actually, we're going for red. Bandella's all about the red. Actually, it's blue, but I'll just keep it at this. Then if you click down here and go to rendered viewport shading, if the other text object isn't red or something went wrong, just right click and change it again. Sometimes the plane also has a color on it, so in my case it does, and you just want to put a slight red tint on it. That's fine. So it changes to like 0.8. and this to 0.8, but red to 0.1, and then it should render a bit red. See, it kind of looks pretty snaztastical. Now the next thing I want to do is render the intro by just clicking render, and it will render one frame, not the entire thing. Now, as you can see, it rendered like the smoke scene. Oh god, that's a bad example of a frame, but anyways, the smoke is still gold. If the smoke was rendered grey, then you're going to want to follow the next step. But if your smoke was rendered with the colour that it originally is, you're just going to want to find the outliner, find the smoke scene, or the scene called scene 001, or scene, I don't know, whatever the smoke's on. And sometimes it should be hidden like this, and you just click on it. And it's going to want to kind of click on the cubes or whatever it is, and just change the material for all of these, and then go back to the text, and then you can go back to 3D view. But if your smoke renders grey, there is a bit more complicated version. Now, once you've finished changing color of the smoke, you'll want to click back to the text for the final render, as all the compositing, so all the effects, is done on the text layer normally. So if you then click on the node editor, this is a really confusing part. So middle mouse button to pan around, so it kind of grabs it, and then you can move this about. If you don't see the background, just click background, and if it still doesn't work, go to here, right to the end where the composite is. And if there is like a really confusing node group, so there's like a node group, I might have to open a .blend file. You just kind of right click on it and click tab, and then like you see, what did I just do? I think tab recomposites it. You just kind of click tab, and then it'll open all the nodes. Anyways, towards the end, just find a viewer node. If you want to add it, just click add, and then go on search, and then just type in viewer, and then you put it here, and then you get one of these. Delete this, and then you get one of these, and then you click on the yellow dot, and you drag it into there, and then you should recomposite the intro. If it's kind of zoomed in fully like this, you can't see all of it, just change this, just change the zoom over here. If that panel isn't there, just click N and it should appear. but that's kind of not what we're doing. Go to the color balance node. So what this does is this renders the text, and then there's a second render layer which renders all that is seen in this case, which renders the smoke. And the current moment time has changed to gold. The way he changes it, maybe with an RGB curve. So if you have the RGB curves, that's an RGB curves. These are the different profiles. So say if it was red, it may be a lot of this. If you just if the thing was red, and most of the time it won't be done with an RGB curves, it'll just be done with a color balance. But we don't want to change it to green. We'll change it to red. I'm such a retard. Anyways, you mess around with these values until you find it looks fine. That isn't the best I can do, but and then you're gonna want to change all of these values to, reddish. So on these ones, not as extreme as the other ones, especially on this one. And then the color change should be done. And now all you're going to want to do is render the intro. Now, to render, if you have an NVIDIA GPU and you downloaded the 64-bit version, then you're going to want to go to File, User Preferences, and it will open a thing. You just want to go over here and click System, scroll down, and it should be on None, and then click CPU. And if you have multiple CPUs, which you probably don't, they'll be like, you can click on them. I don't actually know. But if there's a CUDA option, you can click on this and then select your graphics card. So in my case, this is a GeForce GTX 960. You're going to want to close this off. And then, I'll do that again. You don't want to close it off. You just want to click Save User Settings after you've changed it. Then over here, it will still be on CPU. And you just change it to GPU compute. If that isn't there, then you have to render your CPU. If you render and then it just goes CUDA out of memory and it just gets stuck and there's a load of lines and it looks all weird, then you're going to have to render over the CPU because your GPU ran out of RAM. This is probably going to be the case on some of the Minecraft intros. The Minecraft intro is a bit more complicated, but yeah, then you're going to want to not really mess around with this. Just click this and you can change the output folder so you can put it on your desktop and call it my new intro in here, and then just click accept and you should be finished to render. And then all you have to do is click animate and then it renders. There might be loads of little cubes and it goes in from the center. Obviously this varies from template to template. And then the smoke renders, and then the render process will take between like 20 minutes or 10 minutes, and overnight, maybe even a day or two, depending on how fast or slow your PC is and how much your template how big your template is and how poorly optimized it is, how goodly optimized it is. All depends on that. So just leave it render. As soon as it just doesn't do that anymore, it should be done, and then you can open it. So hope you had a good time. Remember to leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and subscribe if you think you're gonna stay active. And goodbye.
Where'd you find